Hi everybody, I'm Stacy with Stacy's Organizing and Decorating for Life. I'm here to help you organize your thoughts and decorate your perspectives. So today our topic, we're going to talk about setting boundaries with ourselves and others in toxic relationships. So if you like that that's our topic today, then please hit the like and subscribe button below. Before we get started, I want to welcome you back if you come to my channel every week. And if not, I want you to understand that I'm not a doctor, psychologist, psychiatrist, a scientist, any of those things, but I like those things. But what I am is I am a life coach, and I have a webpage called stacyforlife.com, and I invite and encourage you to check it out. I write a monthly blog, and there's a description of the services that I provide as a life coach. So please check it out. Let's get started into our topic today, though. We're going to talk about setting boundaries with ourselves and others in toxic relationships. First off, let's talk about what are toxic relationships and the need to set boundaries and where they come from. We're funny as human beings because we grow up in these toxic relationships. Dysfunctional families is what they used to call them, and now it's expanded to toxic. And so growing up in these things, we're saying and swearing off, especially when we get to be the teenagers, when we're children, these people are our gods, or whoever it is that we're around. This is how we learn to act and mimic behaviors and things. And then as we're teenagers, we realize that we've had some toxic and dysfunctional behavior, that we've had some wrongdoings, and we're willing to share them with our friends, and so we usually pick to hang around with friends who have experienced the type of things we have oftentimes. And then what happens is that we decide as adults, I'm never going to do those things like my parents did, from the wounds that we felt, right? So we just think because we've grown into an adult that we've developed the skills and patterns set to have healthy relationships just by saying I'm never going to do these things. Isn't that funny? Because what we discover is that the tools and skills that we picked up as children, as immature people, who there was no way that we had to learn how to cope with this stuff. We weren't given any skills, so we have no idea of how to cope with these behaviors. Many of these behaviors were transferred and projected onto us, and you're just innocent people. So what happens is we grow up and we have this energy that has been transferred to us of, the projections and things, the self-hate that our parents had, the self-hate of our caregivers, whoever it was. We often feel that self-hate and that self-loathing, and which causes us a low self-esteem, which means that those people that we hung around with, that we felt comfortable with as teenagers because they suffered the same things, or we had secrets and chose to hang around with different people, but still it wasn't a healing work. So we learned a pattern and mimic our lives that way, but then we're not really authentic or organic, and we miss that. But we think we are because we're striving for it, because we think just growing into an adult means that we have grown into an adult and we're automatically going to have these skills that we didn't learn to develop as children. So this is where the healing process comes in. But not everybody does the healing process. And the people that don't do the healing process are the ones that are responsible for the ones who do the healing process. So it's not about blaming and shaming anybody. These videos aren't intended to do that at all. It's to help you heal, because we can't heal just by blaming and shaming and projecting. Now, I am going to talk about a few of these behaviors, because many of us have experienced this but didn't know what it was. I know for me, I had experienced some of these behaviors and didn't know what it was. And there's some of these behaviors that are not likely to change. And also understanding which is a disorder and which is a chosen behavior. Because oftentimes we can excuse disorders. Maybe there's a chemical imbalance. Maybe there's this or that. And it can be adjusted and corrected with medications or healthy eating, or however people choose to do that. However, when it's a learned behavior, it has to be unlearned. Many people learn the codependency, so we unlearn the codependency. But usually what typically happens is a codependent person has a sense of narcissism to them, because the narcissism is, everybody pretty much has it, just like cancer cells, is that it's just who's going to morph them, who's going to feed those, and I'm not saying that everybody who gets these things, we don't know what their plan and their relationship with their higher power, whoever that is, and how their life was supposed to pan out, this map that's been created for them. We don't know. I'm not saying any of that. I'm just saying that this energy that we developed as children tends to carry on into our adult life. And when we're experiencing situations, toxic situations, and we don't set the boundaries and perimeters, what happens is when I'm, like in my healing work, I've done the Reiki, and in the Reiki meditation, what I do is I ask for our, the physical health to be restored. But the lack of physical health oftentimes comes from the emotional health, is what many of us, believe. And so our emotional health oftentimes comes from the past. So this is what we're healing, so if we don't heal those things, then we're going to bump into people who didn't heal theirs too, is all that I'm saying. So what happens is, when you're dating or going with people and you're in relationships to where they break up, you feel like you're pulled in and pushed out, pulled in and pushed out. That's possibly a narcissist relationship. But what I'm saying is that all of us growing up, because we were immature, growing into an adulthood, we realize that we are still teachable, that there's no plateau, that we don't just automatically know these things, especially if we didn't learn them, especially nurturing behaviors, we have to learn those nurturing behaviors, and those are setting boundaries with ourselves, and nurturing ourselves first, because we can't get it from outside. This is the problem, see, is what we oftentimes do as parents when we've been wounded as children. We just say, well, I'm not going to do what my parents did. We overcompensate the other way. Then our kids are mad at us because we overcompensated another way, because we can't heal our wounds through healing our children, you see. But it's a good thing too, because I know for me, I don't know about you, but I know for me, I wouldn't have done much of the healing had it not been for my children, because I had a low self-esteem and low self-worth, and I was codependent. And the thing was that I didn't want my children, to grow up like I did, and I wanted to have better skills and tools to handle things. So I had to get a grip on my addiction. I had to get a grip on many of the things, the codependency that underlines the addiction, the things like this, So I'm grateful for my children and grateful for my trying to heal because of them. But long term, we have to heal because it was probably a part of our journey and our path and adventure even here on earth. We look at these things and think that we're supposed to be somewhere else, that if we're not there, then we're not supposed to be there. So these energies, we know that they are very capable. So what we do is, like I said, attract other people. So when you're in that push me, pull me relationship, that's a control mechanism, okay? When people are pulling you in, pushing you out, and people want to accept that that's normal when they come from a dysfunctional relationship. And you can date people and stuff like this, but when you're feeling hurt over and over and you don't do the healing work, So how this starts is, and then we feel shame because these people will, deflect shame on us, but maybe we never healed from the shame. So we feel like these people are shaming us, but the problem is we never healed from the shame as children, So it's a refilled feeling. How this happens is that we grow up and then we get this ideal. And so then when somebody comes along and they offer us all these things, then we think, oh, I'm saved. All this harm is finally paying off. But now sometimes it does. Sometimes I have seen a few relationships where that's happened. But for the most part, I believe that we were all put here to evolve and to continue to grow and change. And we don't know if this is intergenerational trauma, past life trauma, what kind of trauma this is, but it's for us to heal from. Healing is an adventure, so people are love bombed in the beginning of relationships. The people are always there. And hence that 3-month rule that I posted on Facebook the other day. You know, there's a guy that has a perspective about it. And if you're not friends with me on Facebook, I encourage you to friend me on Facebook. Let me know you found me here on YouTube. And my name is Stacy Renee on Facebook. And so this was an interesting article written by a guy about the 3-month rule, so that people can really get to know one another and see if they're dealing indeed with a toxic person, because it's hard to tell in the beginning of a romance. So what happens is they're all into your business and all into everything, you know, and stuff, and they're not having their own life. If they don't have their own life and own friends, and then they just come up into yours, that's a red flag, you know, because they need to have their own life and own friends. If they don't, then there's a reason for that. So, but what happens is that eventually, you know, they'll start projecting things onto you. Sometimes it's jealousy. Sometimes they're either trying to make you jealous, or, you know, they're jealous of you. So then when jealousy comes in, jealousy is never a good thing. So, you know, that's another red flag. But sometimes people are flattered by jealousy, right? But they ignore the red flag. So then what happens is then they start projecting things onto you. Just like was projected onto them as a child, they start projecting it onto you, and they start accusing you of the things that they hate within themselves, or that has been projected onto them that maybe is not your real belief system. This is the need for boundaries, because when people start telling you what you think and how you feel, no one can tell you what you think or how you feel. There's no way anyone can know what you think or how you feel. However, if you're codependent, as I was at one time, you may think that what they're telling you is real. So this is where you get into boundaries, is when you can distinguish between what is real and not real, and then you can decide what you need to do with that. You know, setting loving boundaries is nice, you know, and you're good if you start setting those in the beginning of a relationship, because what happens is that's where all this craziness comes in later, you know. So set a perimeter of time that you're going to spend with somebody, and, you know, have your own life and allow them to have their own life. It's not for you. Romance isn't about you being up each other's behinds. Romance is about anticipating when you do get together. You know, and enjoying that time together rather than worrying about jealousy and these kind of things. That's a healthy relationship. So the need for boundaries with yourself is to know when you are indeed seeing these red flags, and to stop. And to, you know, you can tell this person, look, jealousy is not okay with me, if you can see they're going to be jealous. And then, you know, nip it in the bud right then rather than keep going, you know. Or if you see that they're going to be trying to make you jealous, nip it in the bud rather than keep going, you know, if you are indeed getting jealous. So setting boundaries with yourself. Now say let's talk about this as your family, you know, is that oftentimes there's a triangulation that goes on with the family. And so when you have a triangulation within the family, you have to choose just to not to be a part of it. Sometimes you have to excuse yourself and leave peacefully. It's not just judge people and shame people, because, you know, that's oftentimes, you can't set boundaries, or healthy boundaries aren't when you're shaming somebody just like what you don't want, you know, and we've seen a lot of this in society today about people shaming people. It's not about shaming people. Healthy boundaries are about stating what you need and desire and then going on, you know, and so when you set a loving, healthy boundary, it's like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to leave now. This, you know, I'm just not in alignment right now. I'm feeling kind of weird, you know, or what have you. There's many ways just to honor yourself and to be honest with yourself. A lot of times people go straight to judgment rather than honoring themselves and thinking about gauging, well, you know, because this is what these people do. It's an unrealistic expectation if you think that people that have some narcissistic traits, or, you know, some other traits, you know, that bother us aren't going to do that. You know, for you to, that's like unreasonable expectation to think, well, maybe this time it will be different. If you've gathered evidence that it's not going to be different, then don't think this time it's going to be different. That calls for the time for you to set that healthy boundary within yourself and to say, I'm going to stay here for 30 minutes before all hell breaks loose. or what have you. Just set that boundary within yourself, and then you get to leave the occasion feeling good about yourself, that you've seen the people that you loved, but you didn't have to participate in those dysfunctional behaviors. So if you have any more questions about setting healthy boundaries with yourself, it's just really to be able to gauge yourself, cells, and soul, to be able to see if the environment you're in doesn't feel good, don't stay. But don't shame and blame people that you don't feel good there. Maybe you've just outgrown that, and everybody grows at their own pace. For me to grow, if somebody would have blamed and shamed me, I wouldn't have grown. I had to grow gently. So be gentle with yourselves and be gentle with others as they're on their growing experience. Remember, setting boundaries with ourselves and others is saying, this is the amount of time that I have. Because sometimes when people need a ride and you end up going all over town, and then you said okay. You said okay. You have to tell people, look, I can give you a ride here. And, then I've got to be back here by this time, and then honor yourself and be like, I'm sorry, I can't do that. We got to be back here at this time, because there are indeed boundary hunters. So I hope that this video has been healthy. I hope that it has been healthy. I hope that it's been helpful too. I hope that it's been able to give you a different thought or perspective, that you can set a healthy boundary for yourself and not find yourself feeling subjected or enduring something. Just to be able to do that at this time. If you have any questions, always remember to feel free to reach out to me at stacyreneeforlife@gmail.com. That's, the questions, comments thing. If you would like to support this channel, support what I'm trying to do, is to heal ourselves rather than blame and shame other people, and to raise the vibe of this universe, feel free to donate to my channel so I can continue to expand and evolve and grow as well, at stacyreinick@gmail.com. At PayPal, at stacyreinick@gmail.com. All donations are needed and appreciated. So, but also, if you don't want to donate, if you'll just support this channel by sharing these videos, if you think that it's going to help somebody else, to be gentle with themselves. Because oftentimes when you've had these projections and been blamed and shamed, we aren't gentle with ourselves. And the thing is that a lot of times when we're feeding into this, it comes off of that vulnerability. And vulnerability isn't a bad thing. It's learning how to have boundaries instead of walls, because oftentimes we have a wall to protect our vulnerability. But it's just about learning to set these healthy boundaries. There are people who are very good at talking to, that can tell you more. They're experts in the field of narcissism. Lisa Morano, Dr. Les Carter, Melanie Tonia Evans, Dr. Ramani. Did I say her? Ramani, Les Carter, Lisa Romano, and Melanie Evans, I think. I may be confusing things. I'll put it in the description below. But those people are very good if you question that narcissism. Like I say, the narcissism starts with the love bombing, and then there's jealousy that comes in, then there's the projections, the blaming and shaming you for things that they're feeling, but they'll say you feel it or you did it or what have you, and then they come back around never apologizing for the actual thing that hurt you, but they'll give you money or something like that, because money is very important to them. But then what we usually find is then you're going to owe them in gratitude for that. So it's this vicious cycle. So nobody wants to be a part of that. So it's about healing and having healthy boundaries in this day and time and all this uncertainty. So I hope that this video has helped you. We had celebrated the Lion's Gate and the new moon. And with celebrating the Lion's Gate and new moon, what we do is we have new intentions. We release those old. So I invited people, I did a meditation and prayer, and I invite you to, in your own way, do your prayer and meditation to release those things that you feel hold you back from your highest and best good, those things that maybe were projected onto you, that you need to just discard. And when you can figure out in what ways they show up in your life, ask your higher power, whoever you perceive that to be, to allow those things to go, and see yourself dropping those things before you put your shoulders back and your head up and your chest out, and you head through that Lion's Gate, those that arch, however you choose it to be, with a line. You walk through that gate courageously, okay? Ready to receive and ready to have all the goodness that's yours for the taking. So I hope you made a list with like 3 things: one to happen immediately, one to happen within the next month, and one to happen, progressively. That you're building your character, you're building your, you go through this practice and development, and in that practice and development, sometimes there's failure, but we lift ourselves and we lift each other up, okay? All right. So I hope, again, this video has been helpful, and I wish you much peace and love, and don't forget to check me out at stacyforlife.com. Thank you so much. I look forward to connecting with you next week. Bye.